All right, don't forget to check out the links in the video description. Man, it's dark in here a little bit, isn't it? A little bit dark, a little bit dark. All right, you're watching What Are the Odds, the first one since the holidays special. I'm one half of your show. The other half will be here shortly. Like the videos if you like them. You know the spiel. Spread them far and wide. Right. Subscribe. If you're on YouTube, mosey on over to Rumble. Give it a like over there, subscribe over there, and vice versa for like 30 seconds of your time. It does a world of difference for us. We're for algorithms and subscribers. But of course, the best place to follow me is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com. You can follow Robert over at vivabarneslaw.com and then vivabarneslaw.locals.com and then sportspicks.locals.com. All right. We're going to have some exclusive poll results here. I've been dying to show this to you. We did this for the 1776 project that Robert runs. And then also I separately did some other stuff that I wanted to share with you. Might have to wait until tomorrow for Inside the Numbers. But there's a lot of cool stuff in this poll. A lot. You know, for the book club, we're reading right now. And if you're not a member of Locals, a supporter of Locals, you should sign up just for the book club. I'm serious. It's that cool. But we're reading now The Emerging Populist Majority by Troy Olson and Gavin Wax. First, we read, of course, Kevin Phillips's The Emerging Republican Majority. And then we did like a primer on Rui Teixeira and John Judas's book, which Democrats clung to like the Bible. Democrats clung to it like most people cling to the Bible, which is The Emerging Democratic Majority. The title alone was a acknowledgement that Kevin Phillips was right. He was right about almost everything. And if you were a Democrat reading Kevin Phillips in 1969 and then 70, watching it play out year after year, year after year, you're going to look at the landscape and you're going to say, we got to do something. We got to change this landscape because we cannot win the presidency like this. We need to do something. That something in between was Jimmy Carter, who was basically a Democrat from the South pretending to be a light Republican. Of course, he was none of those things, but that's what he did. He got one chance until he got kicked out by old Ronnie and yet again, another Republican president. And in that period during the 80s is when a lot of people on the Democratic side came to acknowledge, God, I wish the late, great Pat Goodell was still alive, came to acknowledge that, God, it's dark in here, man. Hold on. I do not want those LEDs on me. I'll tell you that right now. I do not want those LEDs. I'm getting too old to do what I did yesterday. The pool is sparkling and beautiful, but it kicked the crap out of me. And I have, by the way, quite frankly, tonight, 7 o'clock hour, so don't miss that. So it's going to be kind of a long day. Then I'm going to sleep for a while. That's what I plan on doing. But in any event, if you were a Democrat, going back to what we were talking about, you needed to do something. And a lot of people after Carter got beat and then Mondale got crushed, came to realize that others like Ted Kennedy and others, but he was the biggest voice, the old lion, right, had advocated for quite a long time about bringing in new people because they just did not trust white people. All right. I'm just being real. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm not trying to make this about race. They did. It is. And they thought they needed a permanent underclass to change the direction of the electorate because Kevin Phillips is right. And to them, you can't trust white people. They're too conservative. Even if they give you a chance, if you don't perform, and Jimmy Carter did not perform, they will turn on you, including 20% of your own party. And they will bail and they will vote for the Republican candidate for president, whom they have long felt more comfortable with. And I think in this poll, we're going to start to see why. And here's the real kicker and irony out of all this. I'm going to show you the head-to-head probably on one of the on Inside the Numbers tomorrow. But with the poll we did with Barnes here, we're going to go over in a second. You're going to see this. The irony, the biggest political irony ever, is that Democrats may have imported their own demise because they didn't trust white people to vote for them. It's like, we got to educate people, which really means essentially institutionalize them and brainwash them. And we'll do that with higher education. But man, that's going to take a long time. In the meantime, we might as well import a whole bunch of people that will vote for us because, hell, we got nothing but time to kill anyway. It's the era of Reaganism. It's the era of conservatism. There's nothing we can do right now. We might as well. In between, Bill Clinton came along, and Bill Clinton was a very conservative governor from Arkansas. Not very conservative, but for a Democrat. He ran and his wife was always a lunatic lefty, but he was not. And he was a governor from, again, a southern state, Arkansas. Bill Clinton won West Virginia, folks. Go look at the results of Tennessee in 1992 and 1996. They recently lost these people. But I think I can see their greater problem here. And it's the reason I brought the book up. Troy Olson and Gavin Wax argue for the coalition that I have long advocated Republicans go after, which is actually an urban-rural coalition. There's two reasons why I want that. Number one, it's the smartest play. It is. It's politically the smartest play. It's not something you hear about because the suburbs everyone obsesses over. And part of that is Kevin Phillips. I mean, he made such a big deal about the growing conservative suburbs, and whoever controlled them would control the presidency. And that's all very well and everything. But the only thing consistent about political coalitions is that they consistently change. And there's something else about the urban-rural divide. It's just that, a divide. And it causes turmoil in society. It's easy for them, being the ruling class, it is easy for them to point their finger at the other all the time and get us to hate each other. When in reality, the ones who cause all the problems from urban to rural America is them. But they've been using the other to hide. It's white people. It's not our fault. It's black people's fault. It's not our fault. It's the new immigrants' fault. And by the way, immigrants and black people, it's them damn white people. All right, this is what they do. And it's the urban dweller. It's the welfare queen. No. It's the dumb backward hick in rural America. They hide while they point the finger at everyone else. So the urban-rural divide is it. And Robert's here, so I want to bring him in for this last statement. But I think I figured out their problem with this poll, Robert. Americans, Troy and Gavin, are right. Their default position, even though many of them don't identify as a populist, their default position is a populist position and one that leans conservative. And on everything. And we ask so many really cool questions. I'll be honest real quick before we even show it to them. I'll tell you, I thought that we were going to get our ass kicked on that farmer question. I did. I really did. People, those snobby white liberals especially, they'd be like, well, you can't just do that. And government regulates and takes care of us. And they make sure that milk won't poison us and cheese won't give us the farts for 8 days. Like that. They don't. I thought they would think like that. They don't. In fact, all of these years later, we're in 2024, May 2024, about to go into June. And they're like, I don't want the government telling me what the hell I can buy and who I can buy it from. It's amazing. Well, first of all, it's good to see you, brother. How you been, man?
Good. Been busy educating some people on constitutional rights that apparently they want to eviscerate because they don't like
a person.
What the person has been accused of or the person involved. It's particularly interesting on the right. People forget Rush Limbaugh went through a very high-profile set of issues. That didn't change that Rush Limbaugh was still a great American. It also didn't change the fact that they had done illegal stuff to go after Rush Limbaugh. My old buddy Roy Black was part of defending Rush during that time period. Doesn't mean Rush was behaving in his own words, ideally at the time, but we shouldn't rush to eviscerate people at their worst moment, and nor ever should it excuse government malfeasance and misconduct. And but yeah, this was for those out there that don't know, 1776 Law Center. I helped start to help defend people both in the court of law and in the court of public opinion on these key 4 freedoms, the freedoms that can get us out of the Bill Gates dystopian control grid. The food freedom, the right to buy food directly from the farmer, and the right the farmer to make it without requiring government permission in advance. Medical freedom, the right to decide what goes into your own body, not the government decide, not some white doctor in a white lab coat decide, not some school official decide, not your employer decide, but you decide. Medical freedom, bodily autonomy, financial freedom. As we saw, great to see Trump do it this week.
Yeah,
Uh,
man. Amen.
on crypto, on Bitcoin, on end the Fed, on let's get out of the control of the central bankers and central planners, as my good pal George Gammon, who I'll be at his event down near your old neck of the woods in Orlando later
Oh,
this week.
yeah. Yeah.
Rebel Capitalist Live, discussing, but financial freedom, and last but not least, political freedom, which to me embraces freedom from the surveillance state, freedom from the censorship state,
Yeah.
freedom of self-defense. 1776 Law Center supported and supports Kyle Rittenhouse. It supports Reuben King, the Amish farmer. The federal government was trying to lock up because
Yeah.
he engaged in a private gun sale. We're going to be litigating the Second Amendment issues implicated by that. So it's those four areas. And some people were challenging us about whether these things were popular or not. They're saying, everybody loves the COVID vaccine, Barnes. That the good advice to Trump would be to campaign on that COVID vaccine, and to make that the defining issue between he and Kennedy. And some of us were like, maybe not. Maybe this isn't the most popular vaccine in history. Maybe it's caused a good number of injuries. Maybe it's caused people to lose their jobs and discrimination. But,
Go ahead. Finish your thought. I was just going to say,
but we didn't know
huge
what is public opinion. Other people were telling me farm freedom. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I mean, only 2% of our food anymore is bought directly from the farmer. The ordinary
Can I show
American,
those results? I mean, this is stunning. Like, let me show the farmer result first. This is like crazy to me. Robert, I thought we were going to get killed on this. I did. I really did. I mean, this is nuts.
And for those that don't know, so 1776 Law Center hired big data poll, Richard Baris, the most successful pollster for a decade now. I can now say a decade. I think it's reached that. In accurately forecasting election results, and getting data right, and doing this in a statistically valid way to get a good measurement of public opinion. And Richard doesn't know this, but some of the people that are interested in this data included high-ranking members of Congress, included high-ranking members of presidential campaigns, senator campaigns, gubernatorial campaigns, attorney general campaigns, agriculture. So people all across the country, when they found out, hey, we're going to do a poll to see who's right, because extraordinarily, almost nobody's polled on this.
I know.
And so
that's why I was like so cool. I'm like, this is new. This is because look, Robert, it can get a little monotonous after a while. Do you approve or disapprove of the job so and so is doing? It gets freaking boring. That's why I really love it when you do have Rittenhouse cases, stuff like that. You're like, yeah, we have to find the right juror here. It's meaningful. You get it's like what's the word? I guess it's fulfilling. That's number one, because you're helping somebody that needs help and deserves help. But also it's something new. Whereas like the political stuff can get kind of boring after a while, or at least the template cookie cutter polling of political stuff. We did something, and we do a lot, do different things. This was crazy. I mean, look at these numbers. Look at these numbers. More than just over half strongly agree that they should be able to buy food directly from farmers without the government. And look, adding that terminology to the end of the question was key. Without getting government permission. We didn't say, guys, we didn't softball lob this at people, right? That is explicitly saying without the government telling you it's all right. You can sell milk, you can sell peanut butter, you could sell whatever the hell you want to sell directly to somebody. You can, if you got honeybees, you can sell honey, whatever, like whatever it is. We had to put in there that wording. It had to be.
This language is designed to mimic the ongoing legal issues and controversies in court and legislation. And that's exactly what Thomas Massey, for example, is proposing, that Americans have a right to buy food directly from the farmer without getting any government permission at any level, either the farmer or them. And that's why it's phrased that way. It isn't just, hey, do you think you should have a right to buy food from the farmer? It's, Do you have a right to
Yes,
buy
yeah.
food without government permission, without the farmer having it, without you having it? And because that's what the big issue is. Should the farmer have to get a permit first before he's allowed to sell it to you, or before you're allowed to buy it from him? Like the state of Pennsylvania is claiming and trying to shut down Amish farmer Amos Miller.
Yep.
In fact, I'll be writing a brief on that later on today. After I get off the show, we'll be writing about the government. But and in fact, I'll be
Never ends.
citing this report, this data, in part in that. That'll be the first court document this data goes to. Also, this report,
Whoa, that's
we're we're,
cool.
we're going to do a full 1776 Law Center report that's going to go to members of Congress, senators, campaigns, candidates that are very interested in this. But we're also, because certain, well, actually on both sides, there's a lot of campaigns. Every presidential campaign should be polling on this issue. Now, I mean, you can kind of know where, I mean, Biden should, just to figure out what his vulnerability is on it. Kennedy should, because it's right in his wheelhouse. Trump should, because it could be right in his wheelhouse. Now, no comment about some of the posters involved with each of those campaigns, but maybe that's not always their number one motivation. Not to say a certain poster has a habit of making up polls to support certain candidates and might be aligned.
I wasn't gonna say it. Nice, nice
Yeah.
guy, but give me a break. Come on,
exactly.
man.
I mean, at some point, if you're Trump and this poster really hasn't served you well for years, maybe it's time to move a different direction. But hey, okay, is what it is. Same with the RNC. If the RNC, I'll believe the RNC is serious about reform when they hire the right lawyers and they hire the right data people. Then I'll believe we've turned the right corner.
Yeah.
We're better where we were, but not where we need to be. But either way, so the question was, and we measured intensity. And so usually, if this is an issue people don't care about, like we tested other issues as an example, then there's going to be a bunch of unsure, not, in fact, that's what, like, a lot of people who knew we were doing this poll thought you're probably going to get 30% unsure.
Yep.
And then the rest is going to be split right down the middle, 30-30.
I'll be honest with you. I thought that's probably where we were going to end. Like, maybe even best case, I mean, after over 2,000 interviews, Robert, only 2% said they strongly disagree.
And they all work at the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture. They're in their they're in the low IQ lard ass department.
They are literally just statistically significant. I mean, they're just like 1 percentage point above statistical significance. Not 1/10. I'm sorry, 1/10 of a percentage point. I mean, honestly, they could be close to zero. I mean, it really is possible. I mean, that's how this works. I mean, it's within a sampling error, and this is a subgroup within the total. The total sample. 2%. That's nothing. And then even somewhat disagree. You have to combine somewhat and strongly to get 1 in 10 who say they disagree. And again, let's not forget about the sampling error here. So you're talking about a very tiny group of people who have a problem with this. You're right. They're all a bunch of bureaucrats. That's who says they're bureaucrats and bureaucrat lovers. But that's, I guess, a shocking result to me in and of itself. There really aren't that many bureaucratic lovers. So even in our time period with this huge federal government, there's still not, their popularity is like as bad as it was in 1980 when Ronald Reagan said the scariest words, "I'm here from the government and I'm here to help." I mean, it's almost no difference here, Rob. I mean, this is crazy to me. I really did not think we would get a result. So for people who can't see it, just over half strongly agree, and almost another third somewhat agree. And by the way, you want to give them the comparison to people who are considering supporting Trump and Kennedy, like among those people. All right. Yeah. All right. Let me read it real quick, just because we can go down each of the list of everything those people responded.
And we go to the demographics on this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is across the board popular.
Yeah, it is.
Food freedom is popular with the Republicans, popular with independents, popular even with Democrats, popular with young people, popular with middle-aged people, popular with elderly people, popular with white people, popular with Hispanic people, popular with black people, popular with Asian people, popular with employed people, popular with unemployed people, popular with disabled people, popular with married people, popular with people with kids, popular with people divorced, popular with people separated, popular with people never ever married. It is popular in urban areas, popular in suburban areas, popular in rural areas. This is one of the most
It's
uniting
overwhelming.
issues you could possibly campaign on. It is because and not only is it broad support, it is deep support.
Yeah,
You're
let me go.
talking about almost half the country strongly agreeing. And to give people an idea, immigration and other issues often only gets to 50% strongly agree. I mean, so this is one of the top issues you could have out there, and it's a no-brainer. Now, big corporate agriculture may oppose you, and the big bureaucrats may oppose you. And as we show in the later survey, big corporations and government bureaucrats ain't popular with pretty much anybody, other than the people that are working for those big corporations at the
Just like,
top and working for working for those bureaucracies. Otherwise, this is universally popular. This is a no-brainer. If you're running for city council, there's positions you can advance on this. You can have loud farmers markets without permits and licenses in your community. If you're running for county commission, this is popular. You can make sure people. Somebody mentioned the chat, making sure people can have their own vegetable gardens. Because remember, during the pandemic, they said they're coming for your vegetable garden.
yeah.
The Biden administration was trying to come for your vegetable garden.
Yep.
That's where they're ultimately trying to lead to all this. Absolutely. And so this is a city issue, a county issue, a state issue, a federal issue. Anybody running for office at any level can say they are going to pass legislation to establish your right to buy food directly from the producer of that food without requiring advanced government permission, particularly when it's a traditional food that has been made available by farmers throughout the history of our country.
Yeah, I was just trying to show people some of those demographics. I mean, you have some where, by the way, the most likely voter to say they strongly agree is also one that happens to vote all the time. So that's what I'm trying to show people right now. It's all, they're all in and around for strongly agree, the 50% area. But there's some that go a little bit higher. The certain to vote is even more popular with those people. It's, to me, you're right. There are a few issues where you can get a number like this across the board with everybody. I just showed, political affiliation too. Even though Democrats are like somewhat, they're a little bit less than Republicans. I mean, Republicans are like 60%. They're like 48. I mean, it's still I'm just saying strongly, not combined.
Your MAGA voters really want this. Your populist voters really want this.
Yeah.
Your voters who say they're independent and don't think either party relates to them.
Yeah.
Those kind of voters, are the ones that particularly this can resonate with. So it's like you got opposition in the low single digits. You got support of a majority of the country saying this matters strongly to them. This is a no-brainer, and every legislator should be running on it. Like I said, every level of this is a unique issue too. It's not just federal. It's not just state. It can be done at the city level. It can be done at the county level, the local town level. You can allow a farmer's market set up in your town. Say, you don't have to have a permit from anybody to sell your food that you produce directly to the consumer. And this is the way this country was built. It was built on small farms. Thomas Jefferson said the farmer is the key to the future of the American constitutional republic.
Yeah, they love these internationalists, love these microeconomy programs in like third world countries. Of course, they like to try to control them too, but they love those. They don't care about those same programs in their own damn country. Like it doesn't. It's weird. It's just weird, especially when you have so many people agreeing with you. Like this is a voter ID like issue, right? Which is
exactly.
It is.
And explain, like some people in the chat are like, oh, how do we know it's a significant issue? Because of how many strongly agree, how few disagree, and that unsure isn't the dominant. If it's an issue people don't care about, they say unsure or they say somewhat agree.
Yeah.
In fact, because we saw it in other areas, like financial freedom, where there's a lot less sophisticated knowledge out there.
Yeah, let's do that.
And the number's much lower. That's the issue I'm glad Trump has embraced. But that issue is not nearly as intensely and universally popular as food freedom.
Here we go. Okay. Yeah, and actually, because Vivek and others made an issue out of it, I'm telling you that some of the results we got were basically the opposite of what I thought we were going to get. I thought this one was going to be huge, and I thought some of the others, would not. But oops, no, I'm sorry, that one's the wrong. That's the less likely one. Hold on, where are we? Where are we? We asked so many questions. Sorry, guys. I mean, it looked very similar. There we go. Americans should be allowed to own and use alternative currencies, i.e., Bitcoin, without, again, this is key, without requiring government permission. You've got to like put that has to be on there. And this is one where they just kind of gave us, I don't know, blase. And I thought we would get more because Vivek talked about it. Now, there is a certain group of people that does care about this. And that's some of the interesting, because Robert said, hey, put together the people who are considering voting for Trump and Kennedy, and let's look at their issue. So on that last one with the right to buy food directly from the farmer without government permission, it was huge all along. It was huge to begin with. But among those who were thinking about supporting Trump and or Kennedy, 73% said that if that candidate took that position, it would make them more likely to vote for them. If, strongly agree was about half the country, with Trump's and Kennedy's people who are considering them, it's 63%. So it's certainly much higher among this group. Also, by the way, the people who are considering voting for both Trump and Kennedy, or not both, they can't vote for both, but we asked people, are you considering voting for this candidate? And those combined, we're saying those who said yes to both Trump and Kennedy, they're considering it. They are huge numbers of new voters, huge numbers of what would be new voters. So, the electorate overall is like 10%. They're like 25%, 23%. So it's almost double. I mean, almost double. I think it is.
Because part of my pitch to both campaigns, but particularly the Trump campaign, is this is a winning issue. This is an issue that will decide whether people who are thinking about, because the way we did, I think you're the only person, this is the only poll that's been done that asks people, would you consider voting for Donald Trump or Robert Kennedy? So, so what we're looking at is who's the persuadable audience that if you're in Trump camp, you want to get, that you don't want to lose to Kennedy. And if you're in Kennedy's camp, you want to take from Trump. Who is that? And what issue? And what's very interesting is food freedom is one of the top issues of the most important. And you can presume, I think this is a fair assumption, these are going to be swing voters in Senate races. These are going to be swing voters in House races.
No, of course.
These are going to be swing voters in state legislative races. So the point we're making is, okay, we've been able to identify the most important swing voter constituency in America. In this upcoming election, what issues work with them? What issues resonate with them? What issues are going to get you that vote? And one of the big ones that screamed off the chart from the data is food freedom. Because why is it people eat food every single day?
Yeah, why do you think that is? Tell me why you think that is. I was just going to ask you that. Like, go ahead. You're starting to. Yeah. I'll shut up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I realized that as they dug in, I think it's a twofold factor. One is that the pandemic awoke pandemic politics awoke a lot of people to the reality of things concerning our food and medical supply and public health experts, that these people weren't always trustworthy. They weren't always relied. It awoke a lot of people to those sort of Bill Gates dystopian control grid in big tech, big food, big pharma. And one thing I think led to another. The other aspect is it's something people do every day. It's a rare kind of thing that there's an issue that impacts me every single day. Every day we eat food. And every day and our children eat food and our loved ones eat food. And we care about what goes into our bodies because it ultimately dictates our health, but also our happiness. And what more people realize is the food pyramid under big corporate control, under big ag, under big food, has been contaminated with chemicals and preservatives and additives and fertilizers and everything else known to man. We got Bill Gates buying up all the farmland in order to shut down the farms because he wants to sell us Beyond Meat. Yeah. There's a reason why the World Economic Forum likes to talk about eat the bugs, because they want to control food. What did Henry Kissinger say? Control food, control countries. And so we've seen farmer protests take off in Europe and Netherlands. And what happens? The first sort of populist government in that country and forever takes over based on that farmer protest. So I was seeing it around the world in reactions, but I was seeing it domestically. Like Amos Miller's case caught fire. People were like, why are you telling me I can't get food that I want and I need? People who testified in Amos Miller's case were all talking about how essential the food was to their health, sometimes to their child's health, to their physical survivability in some cases. So people are waking up to what I'm putting in my body isn't what the government says is good for me. The government says it's good and it isn't good for me. I want to go, and then we think about our founding generation, our founding fathers, and how we were built on a constitutional republic. How we had our food supply was controlled by our farmers. In the middle of the pandemic, we all of a sudden wake up and we have a beef shortage. How's that in America? Cattle country, because 4 big companies control 90% of our meat supply. And people are like, hold on a second. And then they're used to going to the grocery store and trying to figure out what exactly that meat is in there. And then they got Bill Gates doing Beyond Meat, and they're starting to suspect. And then they're seeing all the bad health consequences, chronic epidemic disease breakout. Also credit to Trump. He says that he wants to launch an investigation on that. Kennedy has said the same thing. But what Trump was on there that I think his campaign would greatly benefit from, and everybody else out there, is because this impacts people every day, because it impacts their health and their happiness. That's why they're reporting in the data. This matters greatly to us. We want to control what goes into our bodies, and we want food directly from the producer, regardless of government permission or intervention.
You know, when I was going over this, Laura's always got a unique way to like give me perspective on something, because I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't understand. This is like, I texted you. I'm like, Robert, this is a winner chicken dinner. You wait until you see these results. And Laura brought up something. She's like, you don't remember when I worked for the state of Florida? And she was like a nutrition manager for the school system. And she had done this. She was part of this program to base. I forgot. She told me what it was from. But it was like farm to table or something. But it was all local farmers. And of course, what happened they wanted the bureaucrats who love to give rules, they wanted to jump in and say, well, we're going to say which farms are going to qualify and which farms don't. And they raised hell over it. Laura and the other employees raised hell and was like, no, you're going to pick winners and losers. You're going to tell us who your friends are, who gives you a bid or something, like who gives a campaign donation to a candidate you like. Then they're going to, this is bull. That's not, you're going to kill the entire program. Anyway, it did matter to people. It was a huge local issue. I don't know how I forgot about it. It was a huge local issue. And then, by the way, when it went through, the food was awesome. I mean, they single-handedly, because they knew after the era of Obama, they wanted to replace Michelle's bowl with something. And they didn't know what it was going to be. And this one ran away with it. And she said, you don't remember how popular that was? And then when people tried to mess with it, it was like, this is a blue area, by the way, or was a very blue area. It's getting more red now, apparently. Like so many other places in Florida, you still have the university there, but it's the red wall they built around that area is encroaching in and in. But yeah, back then it was liberal. I'm talking about Republicans getting 25-30% of the vote in that area. That's it. And it was wildly popular. And then the situation, do you remember when we were in Vegas and we were meeting with somebody, and it was during the pandemic? It was like impossible to find a freaking steak. That steak that we ate, they had to fly that shit in from Australia, Robert. Folks, do you know how much Robert and I had to pay for that steak? I'm not kidding. I don't even want to say it out loud. It's gross. I don't want to tell people, you'll vomit. But that's what happened in the United States of America during the pandemic. I mean, I'm looking at this menu, and it's like, had to be flown in from Australia. I'm like, oh boy. But that's what was going on. And that was during a time when a lot of places were either just coming out of being shut down, but still limited with capacity. So it's like we had shortages then. And then they have the program 30 and 30 or something. They plan in 30 years to take 30% of the cattle ranchers areas in Texas. I mean, what's going to happen then? I mean, so, and when beef is very difficult to come by, are we only going to be able to buy from people that the government says it's okay to buy from? I mean, that's going to be, folks, think about this. Think about it.
injecting a lot of those animals with
Yeah,
all
what are they
kinds
gonna
of
put
drugs
in
that they
them?
want
Yeah.
that they want us to consume in the food supply and possibly be contaminated by it.
Yeah.
You have the effort to, all the efforts to concentrate farming. Yeah, the other two ways to I'm gonna partially start explaining this, but as it's been explained to me, is just look at the popularity of your local farmers market, or as mentioned in the chat, look at the popularity of Clarkson's Farm. Right, this is a
Yeah.
little British farmer that they're just doing a reality TV show. It's become the number one show in
Huge.
Britain. It's
Yep.
now in the top 3 in the United States.
Yep.
So, I mean, the other thing about this is people love the small farmer, right?
Yeah.
Remember the
They
Paul
do.
Harvey, really popular ad years ago in defense of the farmer? I mean, Farm Aid was one of the most popular things Willie Nelson used to do in the 80s and early 90s. That they understand how essential that is to the foundation of America. And when it's like an Amish
Yeah.
farmer that lived basically exactly like our founding fathers lived, almost entirely, completely outside of the big tech, big food, big pharma control grid, and they're living healthier, happier, longer lives than the rest of us. Folks are waking up and saying, maybe we need a little bit more of that and a little less of Bill Gates's dystopian world. And so this is just a great uniting issue for everybody across the political spectrum, all across the geographic spectrum. Doesn't matter where you are in America, doesn't matter what office you're running for in America. This is a winner. So get on board food freedom.
You know how many people too, and I know I'm getting off to another question here, but do you know how many people, even if took the interview through text and they were, it's peer to peer responding back and forth, you know how many people said you can't sue vaccine companies? Like, you have any idea how many? Of
That was
course, I
our
agree with that. Yeah,
second
you want to
big
see this
issue
one?
that we surveyed. Yes.
Huge. And that people were just like, wait a minute, you can't sue a vaccine company if they cause injury? And we're like, no, you can't. But what's your opinion? You agree or disagree? I mean, because we don't want it. I mean, we're just telling
Yeah.
them the
Well,
context of the
it's
question. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, there it is. It's very close to farm freedom. It really is. About half strongly agree. Another quarter somewhat agree. You don't have these huge numbers of disagreement with people, and 8% said they're unsure. Which, by the way, again, that is on the scale to do it in a scale like this, almost like a Likert scale. It really does show that people do care about this issue. And that's probably because of how many people Robert told us they know someone who's been harmed by the vaccine. And you look at that number and you think, well, it's not huge. That's not like 60%. But Jesus, what would 60% mean? That's 20%, 10%. These are millions of people that know somebody who, I don't want to jump ahead, but let's look at this one. Again, this one is pretty much popular across the board with every demographic. Young
Yeah.
people, old people.
It's a simple, the phraseology is exactly what the legislative reform would be, exactly what the public policy would be.
Yeah.
Drug companies should not be immune from suit if their vaccines cause
Yep.
injuries. That's the
Yep.
precise issue. That's how the language in the legislation would be phrased. That's how the public policy issue would be framed. And so we're asking people, do you agree with this immunity, whether it's emergency immunity
Yep.
or kids immunity or any immunity ever, period? Drug company does something, causes an injury, and we specified not any drug product, vaccines. And the
Yep.
assumption again was that a lot of people wouldn't care. The assumption again was this would not be an intense issue. The assumption again would be there would be serious opposition. And what we find instead is people do care. Almost half the country strongly agree that drug companies should not be immune from suit when their vaccines cause injuries. There's almost nobody, about 1 in 10, who object at any level. The unsure level is not that high.
Nope.
So this is an issue that lands with the public. And again, to give people comparison, your typical big winning issue out there looks not as compelling as this. You'll get more opposition on immigration reform. You'll get more opposition on tax cuts. You'll get more opposition on deregulation. You'll get more opposition on trade conflicts. You'll get more opposition on the Ukraine war. On all of it. This issue is one of the most unifying and intensifying issues that exist out there. Food freedom, number one, medical freedom right there with them, number two.
It's like another big winner that we've polled over the years, infrastructure, which was huge for Trump in 2016. Democrats have a little bit weird of a way of bringing infrastructure to people, so they're still poll very well, but it's not as well as like the Trump the old Trump position, even when he was president, what he put forward, we polled. And I remember back then saying that's a high number. That is a winning issue. But this is right up there with that. So is, by the way, so is the farmer question. So even Democrats, look at that. I mean, I put that up there by party so people could see that. And I have to point out, I can go back and kind of look and check transcripts, but it did seem to me that a lot of the people who are like, wait, you can't sue companies, were Democrats. It's like Democrats are a little bit misinformed about a lot of things. I'm trying to be nice here, but like they're the ones. Remember the old Gallup question, what's the percentage of people who get hospitalized from COVID? And Democrats were like, living in another universe. They tend to not have their facts straight on a lot of these issues. And they're like, well, of course you can sue a drug company. Now, you cannot with the Pfizer vaccine. You cannot with this. You cannot with that. So we're not going to sit there and give them a litany of stuff. But the fact of the matter is they are protected. And the only opposition you're going to get from people, you're going to get from like the Fauci class. That's it. And that's it. I mean, that's tiny number, folks. That's less than 2 in 5 right there. I mean, 2 in 10, excuse me, 1 in 5. That's a small minority. And on all of these issues, it seems like these small minorities have an enormous amount of power. They have so much influence, and they don't represent the greater public at all. It's so many of these, whether it's the farmer issue, this voter ID, all these like ones that are knockout, no brainers. There's this tiny vocal minority that screams really loud, and they don't represent anybody except for themselves. This tiny group of people. It really is crazy. That's not how self-governing societies are supposed to work. These issues are supposed to be no brainers. You get it done. That's it. I mean, you're looking for a win. Then some of these are easy wins. You know who's going to say something? The lobbyists. They're going to object to this. Obviously, Pfizer has one of the largest lobbying armies in Washington, D.C. They're going to raise hell over this. But the public, who is representing them is my point. Like, who the hell is representing them when you look at the results of surveys like this? And, we're always fighting with each other. Doesn't anybody want to look for an issue we can all just get around? And the hell with the ruling class. The hell with them. I mean, the little guy hasn't had a win in a long time, Robert. A long time,
Exactly. I mean, this issue of making drug companies liable for suit when their vaccines cause injury is popular with men and women, popular with young and old, popular with poor and rich, popular with Democrats, Republicans, and independents, popular with urban, suburban, and rural, popular with single people, married people, divorced people, retired people, employed people, disabled people, people who aren't even caring to work anymore. With every single demographic, this is popular. And it is an issue with intensity across almost all of those demographics. Yep. And I'm assuming if we turn to the Kennedy-Trump considering group, it's popular with them as well.
Yeah, let's get to Americans should be allowed. Oh, it's alternative. Okay, drug companies should not be immune from suit if their vaccines cause injuries among Trump Kennedy voters, people considering Trump and Kennedy. Overall, again, it's like 50 for strongly agree. This is 57, and that's strongly. Another quarter agree. So that's just an absolute huge number. And I understand. I want to ask you this. I understand what some people in Trump's camp are thinking when it comes to this vaccine. I get they're looking at the polls and they're saying, you know what, we're doing all right in the burbs. I don't want to do anything to harm me in the burbs, right? That's what they're thinking. But Robert, if you came at it from this approach, it's not going to harm you anywhere.
Oh, it's going to help you.
Nowhere.
Capacities like parents with small children were some of the strongest groups in favor.
Yeah, let's pull that up. Yeah. And they're just for people
black voters, Hispanic voters, younger voters, and suburban voters all want drug companies to be held to the same standards as everybody else, even when their product is a vaccine, whenever it causes injury.
Yep. There was like among those who were non-white, non-college, which I showed before, strongly agree was a little lower, and then agree was swollen. So, that tells you they just, you know what? Oh, okay. Yeah, of course. I mean, they're just kind of thinking in their minds. I think a lot of them really did just believe that is the case already. And it's not. And, if you came at it from this approach, you're not going to be able to label you as some crazy anti-vaxxer, and I know that's what the Trump campaign is worrying about, but that's
Yeah. This
not
is just
possible
I
here.
want big
It's
drug
not.
companies, and it's a solution for to the degree that Trump doesn't want to second guess what happened with Operation Warp Speed.
Yeah.
Now, my view is he created a beautiful contract that required Pfizer to deliver a safe, effective vaccine for the prevention of COVID-19. What we documented in the Brooke Jackson case, the big whistleblower, is what they knew they were delivering was not the Trump required deliverable. They
Yeah.
delivered something that was dangerous, ineffective, not even a vaccine, and didn't prevent COVID-19. And they, as you talked about all the way back in 2020 from inside sources, they were deliberately delaying the release
Yes.
of the vaccine just to screw Trump.
Yeah.
So Pfizer has been a conspirator against Trump for years. He owes them nothing and nada. Same with Moderna, with Bill Gates ties. Spent lots of money to get Trump to steal the 2020 election. So, I would love it if he would say, look to me, if they lied, I'm going to hold him responsible. But putting that aside, this is a bridge. If he doesn't want to go that far, here's the bridge. Just say anybody that's been injured by the vaccine, I'm going to pass legislation so the drug companies have to pay you for it. I'm going to make that drug companies should not be exempt from the same laws that govern everybody else. If they make a drug that hurts you, you get to get relief and remedy in our courts. That would go right to the heart of the Trump Kennedy voter. That would help guarantee, in my opinion, along with food freedom, he would have 2 home runs that could just lock it so that the only people end up voting for Kennedy are Biden lovers that, on the environment or something else. So this is but going beyond Trump, this is a big winner if you're running in these contested Senate races in Michigan and Arizona and Nevada. If you're Kerry Lake and you're in a tight race, run on food freedom. I guarantee it resonates there just as much as anywhere. If you know that part of the history of Arizona also taps into the sort of libertarian sentiments there. The real ones, not the lunatics at the convention.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say the real ones, Robert, the
Yeah,
old
the old
school
school.
strain. Yeah. Yeah. Because
The ones who still like Barry Goldwater or come from that tradition. Goldwater is from Arizona, for those that may not remember. The and this issue, medical freedom, and because we're going to bridge into now why this is real intense with a certain group of people. It's because, and you've been one of the only people polling on this all along, is how many people know someone close to them. So
Yep.
this isn't, I saw it on social media. I think I saw it on some interview
Right.
someplace. This is how many know somebody close to them who suffered a serious injury or death from the COVID-19 vaccine. And to give people context, that number on any other vaccine would be 1% or less. So vaccines do not have a long history of killing people. They do
No.
not have a long history of disabling people. There's issues with whether the vaccines cause a range of other issues for children, but not this level. And here again, why
More
is this
than
issue
one in
intense?
more than 1 in 5 knows some. And by the way, when it comes to the negative effects question, such as loss of employment, that's awful too. But this was and so people understand that question came first, and because we wanted to save the more, let's face it, the more sensitive stuff for after. That's the proper way to do it. So we had a
Yeah, we weren't
series of.
trying to influence them. We didn't
Yeah,
say,
that's right.
"Hey, by the way, how many has it killed? Now, how do you feel about
Now,
vaccine?"
how do you feel about the vaccine? Right, exactly. Right. So, yes or no, please answer to the following questions. The following, have you or anyone close to you suffered serious adverse reactions from the COVID-19 vaccine, including injury or death? 22%.
Yeah.
22, Robert. Damn.
And this is an area where the unsure is a unique kind of unsure. These
Yeah.
are people who suspect it
Yes.
caused an injury but aren't sure yet.
That's a great point.
So you
Because,
combine that, you're talking about almost a third of the country already
it's crazy.
knows somebody that's been injured or disabled or killed
It's
by the
criminal.
COVID-19, someone close to them, not someone they heard about, not someone they think they
Yep.
know about, someone close to them. So when we
Close
limited
to
this,
you. Yes.
yes, when
Close
we
to
limited
you.
this to this isn't 6 degrees of separation. This is 1 degree of separation.
Let me
This is a family member. This is a close friend. That's who this is. So this is a small community. And you already have 1 in 5 saying absolutely yes. And you have almost another 1 in 10 saying, I kind of suspect so, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah,
That is a huge number.
I know somebody. I know somebody who goes into that unsure. Like, I know specifically someone in my family that suspects that the COVID vaccine gave their friend a heart attack, but they would answer unsure to this question because they think they did, but they're the kind of person that's like, look, I don't know for sure. They're in those unshores, though. That is such a great point. Those people, like him, that family member, it's a guy. He falls into that unsure because he thinks, it to be the case, but he doesn't know it for sure. And God, he's hoping it's not the case because he himself got it, and he, has now issues that he suspects are related to the vaccine. He went for a test the year before. Everything was fine. A year later is an issue with his heart. And so he thinks, can he prove it? No. But he would say, I'm unsure, but if we would have given a follow-up to that and asked that ahead of time, if I would have had the foresight to think, do you suspect or do you just not know anyone? We should, if I would have had that, hindsight's always 20/20.
Well,
If I didn't know what the result was going to be, I would have thought of that.
I mean, this number way back when you first started was like what? Started with like 2%, then it got to 5%.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is just skyrocketing. And then the second part that really stood out to me, this is why medical freedom has resonance in public opinion, is who was responding to this.
Yeah.
We've been, I think, the only people until recently, when a lot of other pollsters finally like, holy wow, look at this phenomenon, have been discussing now for over a year that a key group that Democrats were banking on has been getting unanchored from the Democratic Party. Working class millennials and Zoomers and younger Gen Xers that are disproportionately minority. And that these voters are the ones reporting dissatisfaction with the world and dissatisfaction with Biden, and that Trump had a fantastic opportunity to reach these voters. I knew about the economics and cultural issues. Even it was there in my legal data in the sense of who's asking me to represent them, who's asking me to inquiry. It was staring at me, but I hadn't put it together. Well, guess who's disproportionately reporting? They know somebody that what they believe was injured or died from the COVID vaccine.
Right. I should have nested age and race for this. We should, but you can see it just as I individually, look at as we look individually at age and then race, you're going to see it. But if I would have nested it, man, it would have jumped out even more. You can see 1/3 of those who are 18 to 24, 1/3. Holy crap. The older you get, the less you know someone, which, by the way, is completely consistent with the data we've been doing for years on this now. It was always younger people reporting adverse effects at higher numbers. So, that this people who've been following us for a while now, they know that. We were the first ones to have the balls to ask that question. Hey, did you get an adverse effect? Was it a mild one? Was it severe? Younger people reported more adverse effects and more severe adverse effects. It was like a ladder. The higher you went up, the less you would see them reported as you crept up in age. And this is completely consistent with that. And then I was showing this before while you were talking, but look at race, look at Hispanics, look at blacks, look at black
what's
voters.
The number one group that is divorced from the Democratic Party over the last 4 years? It's Hispanic voters.
Big.
And what's the number one group reporting they know somebody that's been harmed by the vaccine to the degree of injury, disability, or death? It's Hispanic voters.
That's severe.
Who is Robert Kennedy's now surging with, right? Why is Robert Kennedy doing better in Arizona and Nevada than he's doing in Pennsylvania or even home state Massachusetts of the Kennedy family brand? So it's Hispanic voters. Who is Biden doing the weakest with compared to Democratic numbers? The Hispanic voters. So first, the Trump camp. This is why you can embrace making drug companies liable without even impeaching Operation Warp Speed. You can just say, drug company did wrong. They're going to pay the price.
But you brought up before though, there's nothing wrong with the contract itself.
Yeah,
They
Pfizer
failed
broke
to deliver it.
Pfizer
It's
lied
not
to
on
the
him.
contract. Say, look, hey, if what you delivered was safe and effective, you don't have to worry about being
Yeah,
sued.
exactly.
But if it turned out you lied to me and the American people, well, then you should be liable for it and pay the consequences of it.
Yeah.
And who does that issue resonate most with? People who know somebody injured or killed by the vaccine. Who is that? It's not older MAGA Republicans. It's not
No.
anti-vaxxers, as the media would like to let you believe. It's young working class minorities and millennials. That's who it is. It's the key swing voter group in the election. And so this is a perfect opportunity for Trump, but also for everybody else out there. You're running you look at all these close Senate races, a bunch of close House races, especially now they're going to have mail-in voting in New York.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an easy winner. Because this, even if you don't want to get into the intricacies of the COVID vaccine, okay, just say, look, I'm just going to make sure that if you've been injured, get relief or remedy, and the drug company has to pay for it if they're the ones who did wrong. And I'm not saying the vaccine's good or bad if you're a politician. I'm saying it should be left to the American people and our court system to decide, and the right to trial by jury. And drug companies shouldn't be above the law, and they shouldn't be immune for injuries their vaccines cause. There shouldn't be a vaccine exception to immunity.
Make it analogous to what happened with Purdue Pharma and OxyContin. I mean, look, if the drug companies misrepresent something, if the drug companies injure you, if the drug companies don't behave the way we expect them as society to behave, because they have such an important role they have, you have to keep them honest. They play such a huge role in our lives. We expect them rightfully to be honest and to do right. And if they're not, just like what Purdue Pharma misrepresented the severity of how addictive that drug is, they were punished for it. Just as, maybe they misrepresented the efficacy and safety of the vaccine, they have to be punished for this. It's nothing against Operation Warp Speed. You were trying to do the right thing, and you can easily make that case. And by the way, when it comes to Pfizer specifically, which you brought up already, these are people who didn't want the drug out before his election because they didn't want him to get a win on the vaccine. There are emails from the communications director, the chief communications officer, saying, I will not do anything that helps this man get reelected. So they're out there, Donald. They're out there, Mr. President. Go get him if you want to. Use this to do it. And then the world can see it because I've seen them. I have read them myself with my own eyes. They are there and they don't give a damn about you. So I don't know why you'd care about them. But do it as just a simple, you're being the champion of the little guy that you always are. That's it.
Exactly.
You're just
Pfizer
protecting
lied
them from dangerous, powerful people.
A lot of people believe Pfizer lied and people died because of their personal experience. Again, knowing someone close to them who's injured, disabled, or dead from Pfizer's product and Moderna's product. These are companies that have been always hostile and adverse to Trump, always sabotaging the president. They lied to him and to the American people in what they did with that contract. And the simple solution is remove immunity from drug companies if their vaccines cause injury. Big winner for President Trump. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, by the way, of those Trump Kennedy considering voters, it's 33%. 33. Exactly. And I don't think that's what I'm saying is I think they're considering Trump and Kennedy because of that. I don't think it's the other way around is my point, because those, like you said, the media, how they portray these anti-vaxxers, they're all old white people living in the South, and that's not who it is. It's just very clearly that's not true. They are the least what's the word I'm looking for? Negative.
They're not boomer cons, right? I mean, that's not who they are.
They are not. No.
They are working class minorities and millennials, and it's a big part of the reason they don't want to vote Biden in 2024. It's a big part of the reason they're open to not voting Democrat for the House, for the Senate, for the state legislature in 2024. But it's not a guarantee they won't because of their demographics and political voting ancestry. You would guess, the Democrats at least assumed, these were votes in their pocket.
Yeah.
I mean, James Carville was funny commenting on it recently. He's like, why aren't they coming back? Why aren't the blacks coming back? Well, because the Democratic messaging is a bunch of...
Bro, he's broken. He has lost his mind.
But this is a big reason why. The Biden vaccine that caused all these injuries when he was in bed with Big Pharma and gave them this immunity and forced it on people by hook and by crook, including coordinating employer mandates, that has caused many of these people to be disabled. They know someone who's been disabled, know someone who's been injured, know someone who's close to them, who has died. And they also report being discriminated against and knowing disproportionately.
Yep.
These are the people who lost jobs. These are the people who lost school opportunities. These are the people whose kids couldn't go to school, or they couldn't get into a community college, or they were kicked out of a place because they wouldn't take the vaccine. And those that did take it, they know friends and family who have suffered severe injury or disability. So easy campaign slogan. Drug companies are not above the law. I'm going to hold them responsible. No immunity for drug companies, no matter what the product is they make, including vaccines. Big winner for President Trump with the key voters of Trump Kennedy voters. Those are the key swing voters for every congressional candidate, House candidate, Senate candidate, every other level of government. Run on this issue, and it's a big winner. Run on this issue, and you can win the House. You can win the Senate. You can win state legislatures. You can win the presidency of the United States.
These are the voters people like Dave McCormick in Pennsylvania is going to struggle with. These are the voters that I don't believe the CBS poll, but obviously Kerry Lake is struggling with. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of them in Arizona. A lot of them.
Hispanic,
a lot more. Yeah.
Right? And this is what Kennedy's surging on. And, in numbers, he's going 5 to 8 to 10 to 12. It's Hispanic voters. And
Sam
why
Brown,
it's not just the
Nevada.
economy. It's the economy sucks and there's cultural issues, but it's because they know somebody or they themselves suffered discrimination, injury, or death related to this COVID vaccine. And they're like, hold drug companies liable. That's the most popular unifying issue across the board. Easy winner, smart winner. Food freedom, easy winner. Medical freedom, easy winner. Every smart candidate should run on it, and they will improve dramatically from what this data shows their position for the election.
And I think actually on the crypto question, I think there was room to make that. I'm not saying, elevate it to a central theme, but there's all of these things that are contributing to how people are feeling right now. And I think there's room, even though it didn't perform like some of the other ones did that you just mentioned, I think there's room for it to grow in importance to people because of all of this other sentiment, when we show do you think these people, this group has too much power, in society? Look at the sentiment there. It's just this general feeling the little guy's getting stomped on, and all these other groups in this country have an outsized say and have an outsized share. So I think if you were to use that, especially big banks, people love them, right? So use that issue to kind of educate people. They're going to naturally want to go along with you on it because they're not going to ever want to take the side of too big to fail. You know what I mean? They're just not going to want to do that. So I think there was room for it to grow. It's just that people right now weren't thinking about it. And give it another bank failure round, and maybe that'll change, But here's the clip Robert was just citing with James Carville. I got to play it because he's lost. It's only like 20 seconds. He's totally lost it, Carville. He's broken.
And we keep wondering why these young people aren't coming home to the Democrats. We say, why blacks are not coming home to the Democrats? Because Democratic messaging is full of shit. That's why.
Exactly. I agree with Jimbo. And this is, now if you're a Democratic candidate out there, these are popular issues with with everybody. So yeah, if I'm all for more people embracing food freedom, more people embracing medical freedom, more people embracing financial freedom, more people embracing political freedom. But as a practical matter, like the Biden administration, Democrats in the House, Democrats in the Senate, Democrats in controlled state governments, they're compromised. They're conflicted. Yeah. They're in bed with big food. They're in bed with big pharma. They're in bed with big tech. So they can't oppose the surveillance state. They can't oppose the food system that deprives of us our right to buy food directly from the producer of that food without getting government permission first. Like Pope Redding and the Secretary of Agriculture. I call him that because unless he blesses your food, you can't eat it. It's a guy that's conflicted. And the same with Big Pharma. And so these are huge winners, big populist win. And you're right, the financial freedom issue isn't as intense yet because a lot of people still don't know.
They
There's a lot
just
of
don't
people
know.
that's where you have a big unsure portion. It's also a good test to tell you, this isn't every issue we test says 50% and yay, and that's not the case. The average issue, you get much more muddled, mixed opinions, either because they're more controversial or because people just aren't as informed. Like even I coming in thought food freedom and financial freedom and medical freedom might be about the same. That you might only have 10% of
Me too.
Americans
Me too.
who think negative about the vaccine. I mean, as we tested on the vaccine, less than half the country believes it's safe and effective.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, you got some portion that's not sure yet. And about a third of the country, it's like, it ain't safe and effective.
Yeah, let's pull that up because I thought this was going to test much higher because the last time we had done that question on severe adverse effects, it has been creeping up for years, and we know that because we've been polling it for years. I think we are the first person to ask about adverse effects, the first company to ask about it. But here is just flat out: do you think that the vaccine is safe and effective? And it is, I mean, folks, 2 years ago, this number was very different. All right. We know because we polled it. It was like 75% thought that the vaccine was safe and effective. That is not the case anymore. We had like 15% who would say no. That is now over about a third. Let's just call it a third, be fair about it. But 18% are really 1 in 5 are unsure, Robert. They're unsure. So what the hell does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. Basically, half the country doesn't believe this vaccine is safe.
That's right.
And most of them have concluded they have no doubt about it. Some portion are wait and see. But when you're under 50, I mean, you wouldn't find any other vaccine ever polled where less than half the country said it wasn't safe and effective.
Yeah.
And so this got like one of the arguments made was that Republicans and Trump and other people should run on the vaccine, that everybody loves the vaccine, that nobody thinks the vaccine caused any injuries, any disabilities, any discrimination, that they think it's safe and effective, that the normies buy the mainstream media and big pharma advertising message. Well, that's wrong. That's what this data shows.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. In fact, the only people who really believe it's safe and effective are a bunch of liberal Biden-loving big pharma-serving Democrats. That's about it. You dig into the data, and what you're finding is outside of those partisans who have an excuse to want to justify the vaccine, that amongst people who aren't that ideological, or again, those working class minorities and millennials that are key swing voters, these are voters that are like, I mean, look at that. What percentage of people who are independent, who say they share little in common with either party, what percentage of them say the vaccine is safe?
Almost 4 in 10 say it is not. Only a third says it is. That's it.
Exactly. So I mean, the vaccine is not a winning issue. Running against it is a winning issue. But if you don't feel comfortable running against it, run on drug companies being held responsible, because that's a good proxy for getting those voters. The key swing voters overwhelmingly don't trust the vaccine, disproportionately report injuries, disability, and discrimination related to the vaccine. That's why medical freedom is a big winning issue in 2024.
There's a huge chunk too of overlap, okay, with those Trump Kennedy considering voters, okay? There's a huge overlap with those who say that they did take the vaccine and now do not think that it was safe and effective. This is a huge number. It's like 20% of that entire group. So I'm saying like 1 out of every 5 Trump Kennedy considering voter in fact took the vaccine but now does not believe that it is safe. That is a huge deal, folks. I mean, that's a big chunk of people. Among those voters, only 38.7% think that it is safe and effective. 45% say it is not. And then another 16.5% basically say that they're unsure. And again, that unsure number, when you're looking at people who would say unsure to this, it means, folks, they don't think it's safe and effective. I mean, it's look at independence overall.
And they're building down. And it was why have all these young minority, millennial, and Hispanic voters who were supposed to be the base of the Democratic Party. The whole Democratic Party's political calculations was that as the electorate changed in generational cohort, they were going to dominate. And as it changed demographically, they were going to dominate because the millennials, the Zoomers, the younger Gen Xers, and Hispanics were going to vote for them by margins of 20, 30, 40, 50 points. Because they've hit as high as that in some of the past elections. Now they're in serious trouble. And one of the reasons is this group of voters is not only unhappy with their inability to buy food directly from the farmer, but they don't like drug companies being immune because they know somebody who suffered personally
Yeah.
bad consequences from the vaccine.
Yeah.
So
They
this is
know.
and they don't believe it's safe and effective because they know it isn't because of something that happened to someone in close to them.
Or themselves.
Yes.
Obviously not death, they can't be answering the question, but they may have known someone else who did in fact die that they believe was from the vaccine. It's either you or close to you. So that is your that is someone like that's your inner circle, folks. Like that's how bad that is. And right, what you just said, could you imagine like a flu vaccine testing like this? Could you? No, never. No way. No way. No how.
Polio vaccine. I mean, when they've
Oh
tested
my
other
God.
vaccines, it's over 90% people report safe and effective. It's
Yeah.
low single digits they
Huge.
report they know anybody ever injured by it.
Yeah. This is crazy. This result is
And
absolutely
this number's
nuts.
only going to grow because the
Yes.
number of people who continue to the
And
injuries aren't going to suddenly go down. The injuries are only going to go up. So this number is just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. So if you're in a close election out there, easy issue, hold drug companies liable, and you're reaching a constituency that deeply cares about this issue, that connects it to public policy from personal lived experience, that is disproportionately the swing voter in the 2024 election.
Yeah, speaking of, this is how too what what lends even more credibility to the data is that we did not find similar answers across the board, like you said. So that's number one. Number two, comparable levels of people who reported being vaccinated with that first round as other surveys, even the Kaiser Foundation. It is true registered voters are a little bit less than the adult population in general as far as reporting that they took the vaccine, but that's what we are very much in line with everyone else's registered voter population. And then when we look back at the question of how did you vote, we can tell it's very representative. That is very close. All right. So Joe Biden 50.1, Donald Trump 46.3, Joe Jorgensen 1.5. Someone else did not get 2.2% of the vote. Those are largely Biden voters who are refusing to say they voted for Joe Biden because that is what happens when you ask this question and the president is unpopular. They won't admit. And by the way, who are they? I can even tell you who they are. The black working class age and below, more men than women, but it's both men and women, are the most likely group to admit that they voted for Joe Biden. All right. So just so when you look at that, so here's race. We know obviously the Hispanic vote is basically dead on. Black voters are lying more than actually did say they voted for Donald Trump. Those are people who did not vote for him. And the difference between the real vote, around 10%, and what you're seeing there is the new non-white Trump voter. They voted for Biden. They're just not going to tell you that anymore. Some of them are going to lie and say they voted for Trump, and others are just going to say they voted for someone else when we know black voters did not vote third party very much at all. So Biden got the lion's share. This is major problem for Joe Biden. He's in deep trouble, Robert. He's in big, big trouble because of that question. Look, first of all, at the Hispanic margin. That is roughly the exact margin nationally. All right. So 2.6% of Hispanic voters that said they voted for someone else, they are full of crap, and you can just add them to Biden's margin, and then guess what? That's Biden's share of the 2020 Hispanic vote. Almost identical. So when we show you the results now, believe us when we tell you that movement is real. Those are people who are saying, I voted for Joe Biden. I will not be voting for him again. All right. And when we ask, are you considering voting for Joe Biden? He's in deep trouble. Can we show that now? As an incumbent, you should not look like this, Robert. This is bad. So
I think it's a question that more pollsters should ask because that's what you really want to know is who's really considering these options.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're trying to figure out if you're in the Trump camp, Biden camp, or Kennedy camp, who you need to appeal to, you want to know who's persuadable, who hasn't ruled you out.
Yeah.
But that isn't necessarily voting for you right now, or is voting for you right now, but it's saying maybe I won't. Maybe I'll vote for these other guys. That's the voter you need to persuade. You need to persuade to vote for you, and you also need to persuade to vote. There's a big issue in the Trump camp. It's a even bigger issue depending on where Kennedy wants to finish in the Kennedy camp. But as you've been pointing out, this is going to be an unusual election.
Yeah,
Historically, low turnout favors Republicans. Now you want max turnout because max turnout favors. Low turnout favors Republicans. Now low turnout hurts Republicans.
Yep.
You want max turnout if you're in the Trump camp. You want max turnout if you're any of these Republican challengers, because it's a lot of these new populist voters, working class, minorities, millennials, and Zoomers, who because of the economy, who because of the war, who because of cultural issues, who because of the vaccine injuries, are divorcing from the Democratic Party. But they aren't marrying the Republican Party yet either.
No, they're not. Yes.
And that's the thing to understand about who's going to decide this election, what moves the needle with these voters. But before you can do that, you got to know who are these voters.
Yeah. And let's put up Joe Biden's consideration. It's not good. This election should be won easily. All right. I'm just saying, like, everything is baked into the cake. And those voters that Robert was just talking about, if Donald Trump can get them out and they vote for him, they will vote in many of the cases. You should be able to get them to vote Republican, but they're not married to the Republican Party. So you better touch them some way. You better reach them some way, because right now there are people who are telling us, if I vote, I will go out and vote for Donald Trump, but I don't know what I'm doing down ballot. There's tons of them, Robert. And I'm telling you, Dave McCormick cannot count on them just to vote for him. We can go down the list of these Senate races. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. In Nevada.
Nevada has. Aren't there two races on the ballot?
Silver State is really a perfect example. These are people who live off the grid, bro. They don't, it's
a huge working class minority millennial population, disproportionately. The same with Arizona, but Nevada even more so. These are states where the Senate will be decided, the House of Representatives will be decided, and the presidency will be decided. And the key voter group, this Trump-Kennedy voter group, this that's open and even in some cases Trump-Biden, Kennedy-Biden voter group, that's open to voting Trump, that's open to voting, will also be open to voting Republican down ballot. And that's a voter group that's not the stereotype or image in Washington, D.C. of who the swing voters are. They aren't your wine mom suburbanites. That's not your main driver of the numbers this year.
I'm so sick of hearing this.
I'm so working class, minorities, millennials. Many of them are urban. Think about
urban.
These are urban voters. These are they live in apartment complexes if they can afford it anymore, because the rent is too damn high. Their job and real wages have not kept up with their real expenses, especially things that matter to them, whether it's gas in the tank or food at the places they buy food from. They buy disproportionately from fast food. They buy disproportionately from these groceries. Now, a lot of them would like to buy from the farmer's market. They'd like to be living healthier, better lives. But that's where food freedom, medical freedom, financial freedom, these are easy issues that can cut through and reach this key voter group. And that's the best way to get there. Everybody can attack one another, and I get all of that. That's probably not going to be the most effective path. These are voters, as you pointed out, have mostly ruled out Joe Biden.
Let's show that.
The only key is if you're Trump or Kennedy, and in this case, presumably the Trump camp, is do you make sure they vote for you and make sure they vote.
They make sure they vote. Right.
And find the issues that get them going. And those issues are not BoomerCon issues. It's not going to be, let's fund more money to war in Ukraine or Israel. That's not going to be the issue that gets them ready to go. It's not even going to be, I love tax cuts and business deregulation as much as anybody, but those general issues are not going to necessarily get them going. But issues of direct relief to them that's going to improve their lives. This is why Biden keeps coming up with excuses to find ways to forgive student loan debt.
Yep.
He's trying to reach and salvage this voter group that he's getting utterly murdered with. And the Hunter Biden as a life example isn't going to be the way to get there. So instead, it's got to be these issues: food freedom, financial freedom, political freedom, are issues that they already report disproportionate high levels at every level, and they're up for grabs. They're up for grabs at a level. This is a whole generational shift I mean, the Republicans, conservatives, populists, they have a unique opportunity to grab this voter group, to get their loyalty, to get their commitment, not only for 2024, but on a go-forward basis.
Beyond, Robert, they miss out on it this time, and good luck. Like if they screw this up this year, there won't be any Donald Trump anymore. All right, so that's anyone any voter that you could use him to leverage to build a relationship on. That's over. That's never going to come. I mean, these guys, these kinds of personalities, they don't come along every damn election cycle. You're going to get almost like a cult of personality like figure once in a while. You're going to have a bunch of people then, and for the remainder of that epoch, you're going to have a bunch of people trying to mimic them and basically ride their coattails. Look at Reagan. Reagan came along, and then everyone pretended to be a Reaganite for the next 30 years. I mean, there wasn't another Reagan. I mean, no matter how hard Republicans tried, they could not do that. And those voters that Reagan brought on and Bush chased away, took them years and years and years to try to get another look at them. Look at here's Biden's numbers. To me, this is a loser in the making. It is, because this is way worse than Donald Trump was in 2020. And we asked this question in 2020, and it was like close, and that's not good for an incumbent. You want it to be obviously as overwhelmingly positive as you can, but Biden is in deep trouble here. Here it is by race. Would you consider voting for the following candidates? Joe Biden, already half the country says no. That is awful for an incumbent president. Only 41%, Robert, have said yes. Look at the numbers with minorities. 40% of Hispanic voters have ruled out Joe Biden. Another 25% almost of black voters say they've ruled him out. And so where I'm going with this is very simple.
And
White
also
voters,
look at the unsure categories as to who are the swing voters.
Yeah,
these are people who should not be swing voters for the Democrats, but now are. And that's what anybody looking at
15%.
Yeah,
crap.
I mean, you got mid-double digits. Mid-teens amongst both black and Hispanic voters, and you got high numbers amongst Asian voters.
Asian and other combined. Yeah,
that matters in places like Nevada, where you got a big Filipino population, and it's the Asian vote. They can never poll accurately in Nevada. That always is the only state that ever skews Republican in the polling data, because they can never get the Asian vote right because of how it's swung over the past 15 years. But a lot of the Asian vote in Nevada, unlike, say, the Asian vote in some other parts of the country, is very working class, right? These aren't upper middle class Indian Americans living in Northern Virginia with government ties, right? This is Filipinos. This is other related ethnic Hawaiians. This is a range of groups that are much more working class in profile, and that because of a combination of the economy, pandemic politics, the culture of what's taking place, everything related to the COVID vaccine injuries, other aspects, are deeply dissatisfied with the Democratic Party. And these are the people that are up for grabs, and that you can go out and steal if you're Trump, if you're a Republican, if you're anybody running for office at any level. And so, because these are the key voters, you look at what issues move these key voters. I mean, even some of the more conventional attacks between some of the candidates, like environment, energy issues, that's not going to be the big thing with this group of voters.
No.
Abortion, being pro-life, that's not going to be.
No.
These are not evangelical Christian pro-life.
No, they're not. They are not, which we can show, by the way. They're not. They're already kind of locked. They're already locked in. We know how that's going to go, Robert. We know how those groups are going to go. I went back and looked for the Epoch Times. It was less than 12%. It was 11.7% of black voters who had said no to Joe Biden, and he wound up getting, roughly. He wound up losing roughly that amount, a little bit less if you believe the voter validated, a little bit more if you believe Edison. So, I mean, but right in the ballpark of what Trump got and Biden did not. But I would say this, what's really important for people to remember, just because some of these voters are saying they're not going to vote for Joe Biden does not mean that they will vote against him. So for instance, maybe a lot of them just stay home in a certain scenario, and then Biden winds up doing, not as bad as it looks like he's going to do with black voters, because you didn't convince the rest of those voters to go out and vote. So instead of getting that 15%, Trump is I think it's easy that Trump can get 15% of the black vote at this point, but he could do more than that. Everyone's got him in the 20s now, Robert, low 20s. Let's take sampling errors for subgroups into consideration. That puts him easily. And I was talking to Dave about this. Viva, he was on Twitter talking about it and taking heat for it. And he's like, am I wrong to think that Trump could get 16% of the black vote? I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Well, especially given what we've been talking about for years. There's a big age gap.
There's already happening. Yes.
There's the older black voter. It's a lot like the 1930s. The older the voter, the black voter, the more loyal they were to the Republican Party, even during the middle of the Great Depression. The beginning of the shift of black voters to making them competitive between 1936 and 1962 or so was younger, the newer generations. It's newer generation. It's younger Gen Xers, millennials and Zoomers, disproportionately men, disproportionately working class, disproportionately identify as independent. But this is the group that if we isolated that group's almost up for grabs completely. If you looked at younger black men who identify as independent, that group anybody can get. I mean, and that was a group that historically 3-1, 4-1 in Democratic pocket, with 9-1, 10-1 amongst black Democrats, and giving them those big 65, 70, 75 point margins that they need if they even have a chance in Georgia, if they even have a chance, even in places like Arizona, Nevada. I mean, the black voters would put Obama over the top in North Las Vegas. Big turnout in 2012. And obviously in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, all of those key swing states in the Midwest, you've got substantial black vote populations. So if this vote is now up for grabs, but it's not up for grabs and, let's have a token Tim Scott, who looks like Token from the South Park show on the ticket, right? I mean, that's somebody should create a meme with Token with Tim Scott from South Park.
This is crazy, Robert. This is crazy, and I know that this talk is real, and this is crazy. You would do better with Ben Carson, but that's not. Picking a black vice presidential nominee, I don't think is going to move the needle at all. Like, I'm sorry, I really don't think so.
It won't. I mean, because that's not what they're looking for. Yeah. It's not the older black socially significant voter that's up for grabs. Yeah. That's a voter that still thinks of the Republican Party as the white man's party. So what
Tim
you
Scott
want
would reinforce that. He would.
Yeah, absolutely he would. So that's exactly who you don't want. You want somebody whose issues, whose ideas reach that voter group. And they're telling you, we've disproportionately had bad experiences related to the COVID vaccine. We're getting hammered economically. We don't like the war overseas. These are the combination of issues that resonate. It's not energy, environment. Let's go tax cuts. Let's look deregulate. That's not what's going to get that voter in. What's going to get that voter in is this is the new populist swing voter constituency. And we've been identifying it now for over a year. Disproportionately minority, disproportionately millennials and Zoomers, disproportionately working class, disproportionately concerned with issues like food freedom, medical freedom, financial freedom. That's how you can reach this voter group, run on these issues. I mean, credit to Trump going to the Libertarian Party, embracing crypto, going to the Libertarian Party, embracing the commutation of Ross Ulbricht. Credit to him also saying, I didn't used to be a libertarian. Then they indicted me 91 times.
Yeah, that was.
Remember, we were one of the first people saying one of the effects of the indictment is they're going to take this caricature of the old rich white guy from New York that Snoop Dogg could make rap songs wanting to shoot to a guy that rappers are back celebrating. Why? Because now he's one of them. He's one of us. He's somebody wrongly prosecuted by the state, abused, as Trump put it. I wasn't a libertarian. Then they indicted me 91 times. And that's another resonant issue with this working class constituency that disproportionately knows people abused by the legal system. So, I mean, and for the people that don't know, this is not a pro-immigrant group. This is not a group that likes immigrants coming in, illegal immigrants causing problems of crime in their community, causing loss of jobs and depressed wages in their community, causing issues of overtaxing and the entire health and social services and educational system in their community. So these are That was one of the big mistakes Democrats always made. They assume, hey, a lot of illegal immigrants are Hispanics, so hence won't all Hispanics vote for illegal immigration? No, they're the ones getting screwed by it. So
Yep.
these are
Wars
just
and
winner,
immigration.
winner, winner issues.
Wars and immigration, Robert, they are no dice on this. No dice. And when we asked, because we've asked this question a bunch before, but the Ukraine question, these people want you to address them. They don't care about, border jumpers, or they don't care if they're trying to come here for a better life, even if that's true. They don't care about any of that. They don't care about Vladimir Zelensky not ending up being hung upside down like a stuck pig, like Benito Mussolini or something, like meeting his fate, or like the fate of Gaddafi. They don't give a damn about Vladimir Zelensky. They don't care about the war in Ukraine. Look at this by race. Look at this question. Please tell us whether you agree or disagree with each of the following stated positions. And we rattled off a litany of them. One of them being America should not send taxpayer money overseas to support foreign wars in Ukraine. A majority of this country does not want to send money to Ukraine. We did not say lethal aid, Robert. We did not say boots on the ground. Yeah, look at black voters. Look at Hispanic voters. They're more in opposition than whites are. They don't give a damn at all about Vladimir Zelensky or the plight of the Ukrainian freedom fighter, my ass. Anyway, but they don't care. Look, black voters strongly agree, almost 4 points more than whites do. Hispanics are right there with them, over a third of each of these groups, where whites are just under a third. And then you have the somewhat agree, which is even more swollen than whites who somewhat agree. Whites are 19%, blacks are 22%, Hispanics are 26%. Combined together, folks, over 6 in 10 Hispanics do not want to send money to Ukraine. About 6 in 10, just under, black voters do not want to send money to Ukraine. They don't care about these white internationalist liberal issues. They don't care. Neocon, liberal internationalists, whatever you want to call it, they've been experimented on by drug companies. They've been dealing with food shortages. They watch, and I mean, did you see that focus group MSNBC ran in Georgia? Those black voters, and they were like, "What? You're going to vote for Trump?" And the lady was just like, "You made him one of us." The system is attacking him like the system attacks us. All you guys do is care about others. You care about other people that aren't us, and you try to destroy anyone who tries to do anything for us. That lady was hilarious. I mean, I love black women, man. They're hilarious. They're the best. I really do. It's white women I'm having a problem with lately. I got to tell you. I married a Hispanic woman, I'll tell you. So that was even before all of this, but I don't understand how they're just so disconnected from everyone. Like these white liberals, especially women, they're just disconnected from everyone. And then they go on TV, which I played a clip of on Friday on Inside the Numbers. This snotty, privileged, rich white woman goes on CNN and starts mocking black voters for supporting Donald Trump, and mocking Hispanics too. She was mocking the people at the Bronx rally. How could you be at a rally for this racist? You stupid idiot. Only you believe that. Only your dumbass believes that. Stop telling people of non-white people what is best for them. Okay, they don't need your cool tall glass of iced tea on a hot day. All right, go back in the hat with your stupid bonnet on. All right, that's what they remind me of, Robert. You got them out there slave labor working. You think you're the greatest person in the world because you come out with a nice tall glass of tea. Up yours, lady. Up yours. And nobody cares about your boy Vladimir Zelensky. They don't care what happens to him. They care what happens to their own damn kids. They care what happens to them. They care what happens to their mortgage. They care what happens to their transportation, their ability to get around. They care about their ability to pay their utility bills at the end of the day. They don't want to be experimented on like guinea pigs. They don't want you to take loads of other people from other countries and stuff their schools up so the kids get screwed out of a quality education. They don't care. I don't understand why that's so hard for them to understand, to process, Robert. All they see is Trump, Republicans, and they started to believe their own bull. You know what I mean? Everyone knew it was bull, and it's now for some reason they forgot that their own lies were bull, and now they're like they're living in their own false world or something. I don't know how to say it. Go get another jab,
Oh, yeah.
lady. I don't know what to tell you. Go get
Well,
another
yeah.
jab.
And the other sort of aspect to this is the
Take two, Laura said.
yeah. I mean, it's that the media, the professional political class, a lot of the political consultants don't understand who is going to decide the 2024 election, nor why.
Yeah.
And because they're disconnected from who these voters are, they're disconnected from the issues motivating these voters. These voters, they want to pretend they're voters like the media, like the political class, upper middle class professionals. I mean, that's how the Libertarian Party ends up nominating a candidate that may get them kicked off the ballot after 2024 because of how bad he's going to do. You know, the Libertarian Party had a chance to nominate Trump, nominate Kennedy, nominate somebody decent. And instead, they chose a, hey, let's trans your teen. Big gay rights advocate who never talked about the pandemic other than pandemic politics, other than praising masks and supporting employers having an absolute right and corporations having an absolute right to fire you if you didn't take the vaccine or wear the mask and kick you out of a facility they did. So he's, pro-pandemic, pro-woke, pro-free trade, pro-open borders at a time when the immigration issue is off the charts in America and the UK. I mean, we'll get a little sneak preview by what happens in UK, but the UK is an example of what happens when all the institutional parties betray their base. People there don't want to vote for the Tories or Labour or Liberal Democrats. And Nigel Farage's party may surge, or there may be massive non-voting by voters because of the failure to address that issue. But so the Libertarians nominate the worst possible candidate. I mean, Trump made the joke, hey, you can always just get 3%. They ain't getting 3%.
Not getting
like
3%.
Get 1%.
They're not.
Because that vote, and you know what his pitch was? I can reach young people. And I'm like, you have no clue, just like the Biden campaign, just like the media, just like the political class, who these voters are and what motivates them.
They say that every time too. I don't know where they think where they're getting this from. The polling data doesn't even support it. I think they get confused by younger people who are unsure sometimes in polls, and they'll throw their vote away to a third party when the pollster asks them, but they don't actually go there and vote for them. They just don't. Right. And they'll say, I guess I'm going to vote Libertarian because I consider myself Libertarian on some of these issues. But as you can see here, Cornel West, and this is not the first poll where we've seen this result, with the exception of Kennedy, who has a loyal following at this point. With the exception of Kennedy, the other third-party candidates aren't really in an environment where there's supposed to be such high appetite for third party. They're not. Libertarians are not performing. Jill Stein is going to beat the Libertarian Party at this point. She is. Yeah. The Libertarian Party is in the dookie, brother. And especially when we lean them, right? Because it was like I think he came out a little bit ahead of her until we leaned, and nobody leans to the Libertarians. Nobody. Cornel West, if he had ballot access, would beat the Libertarian candidate. I mean, that's where we're at.
In some states, he will. And
in some states he's going.
At this point, the Libertarian nominee is going to eat into just Biden's vote. Upscale, elite, Trump hating, social liberal, fiscally conservative kind of types who would never vote Trump, but would otherwise vote Biden, and would never vote Kennedy either, or Cornel West or Jill Stein. But they'll be happy. They'll feel virtue signaling good. And, Montgomery County, the types about voting for this guy. But that's it. Those are the only people going to vote. So what it really does, it costs Biden probably about 0.5 point in upscale suburban areas outside Atlanta, outside Philadelphia, outside Detroit, in those places, parts of Phoenix, like the old McCain, never Trump hating base.
Yeah.
That's the kind of place I'll vote for. And that's it. He's not getting anywhere with working class minority millennials and the key swing voters that he's claiming he's going to get, because he's on the exact wrong side of every key issue they care about. This guy's a libertarian, and he never talks about food freedom. Libertarian never talks about political freedom. Libertarian never opposes most forms of medical freedom. What a crock.
Where were they on
medical freedom is he wants the perverts to have access to your kids.
They were dead silent during all these FISA abuses. Like, I am unaware of what they stand for at this point, Robert. They
Yeah,
were
I mean, really, what
dead
happened was
silent.
you, you
Russiagate, nothing.
Yep, you had an upscale elite. The libertarians started out with some true libertarians. Then it got during part of the Reagan era, a lot of upscale elites
Mhm.
infiltrated it. A lot of your John Anderson base were these kind of, oh, I don't like Reagan, those kind of people. And then they kind of receded. And then Ron Paul salvaged them and gave them a populist right hue, which Murray Rothbard, longtime libertarian advocate,
Yeah.
had long supported an alignment between the
Yeah.
populist right and the libertarians. He brought Austrian economics and end the Fed. Ron Paul was pro-life. Always shocks some libertarians who don't realize this, but he had a lot of populist positions across the board. Once he realized, oh, the libertarian's not going to get what needed, I need to go in the Republican Party politics to succeed, kind of like Thomas Massey and Jim Jordan and others have done. Especially in 2016 when they had a perfect opportunity.
They had a great, yeah.
All the never Trumpers infiltrated the Libertarian Party.
Yeah.
Took it over, put William Weld on the ticket, least libertarian guy on the planet. So and what happened is that's when their delegates and their donor base solidified as elite. And credit to Dave Smith, Michael Malice, Tom Woods, a bunch of those folks, Malice more in the back, went out and tried to take over to what's called the Mises Caucus, the Libertarian Party. They were the ones who had the smart idea. Let's invite President Trump to our convention. Let's invite Robert Kennedy to our convention. Let's invite, of course, Ron Paul to our convention. To give it more attention, to give it more notoriety. But because these elitist types, professional managerial class types, dominant, pure selfish kind of people who just want license to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Whether it's drugs, sexual perversion, but they want big corporations to run the world.
Yep.
They don't believe in individual rights when it comes to big corporations because a lot of them work for those corporations.
Right. There's no doubt. That's who they are. That's who they are now, I guess. No, I do have an idea.
And that's why the Mises Caucus tried, but they couldn't control the nomination process. Now, if Dave Smith had been able to run, he had family issues that prevented it, then maybe Dave Smith would have been the kind of candidate who could reach out to these voter groups, talks their language, communicates on their methods and platforms, etc. But this schmuck, he has no chance. Going around wearing his mask with, look at me, my rainbow flag.
Yeah.
That guy is not appealing to anybody. Can't wait for drag queen story time for your 6-year-old.
That's another thing with these voters. They don't like this crap. That's another thing with these groups.
If you know anything about Black and Mexican working class voters,
oh my God,
let's just say they're not big gay rights proponents.
The trans stuff drives them nuts, Robert.
Completely. Especially when it comes to messing around with their kids and stuff like that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say this. I told a bit of this story on Inside the Numbers last week, maybe I think it was. But you're gonna love this. We were out to dinner, and first it happened to me. I got up to go to the bathroom, and I feel like a rattling at my door, and I'm thinking it's just somebody, and then I heard them walk out. As I'm washing my hands to leave, I turn around to leave, and I saw her at the table next to us with her group of friends. A woman walks. I mean, it's a young white woman, and clearly is not a straight white woman. I mean, you can tell she's like butchy, but I had a look on my face. There's no doubt. I was shocked to see a woman open the door and walk in. Right? She just, before I even said anything, it was just like, shut up, and then walks into the stall. And I'm like, oh my God, you're not a man. And I walked out. All right. So then that's fine. That's me.
A local coffee shop that I really liked in Madison, because I lived in a neighborhood with some interesting types, and I was like, if the coffee doesn't wake you up, they will. I mean, it's where the men have beards, and so do the women.
That's it, Robert.
It's that kind. But that's not what's going to win. The 2024 election.
That's what I'm saying. Listen, there's more to the story. So then we're getting ready to leave, and I got to go again. My son's like, I'll go with you. And he's 14 years old. I mean, we go in again, and I hear rattling at the damn stall again, right? And what happened is, well, because I didn't get it at first, she was pissed that men were in the stalls, like, kind of like we could use the urinals, right? Because it's the men's bathroom. But I always tell my kids, don't use the urinals; they're disgusting and they splash. I have a whole process I teach my children about how to urinate in public, and in public restrooms. Anyway, this is a 14-year-old boy, and she's pulling on this thing to the point where I think like the hardware is going to fall off the stall. Anyway, guess who was watching the entire time? A group of young Black women. And my wife was pissed, told management and everything, because I don't really care that you're deluded and you think you're a man. I don't give two shits about your delusion. That's my son. You don't, that's borderline. Like a normal person could get the police called on them for trying to peep on a 14-year-old or something or whatever, or at least just doing something that exposes a 14-year-old to you. And guess what? You get arrested for that, and then you go in a cute little database for offenders. That's where you belong. You do not belong in some list of people we're supposed to feel sorry for because you have a delusion. Anyway, it was a ruckus and it was a thing. The table of young black women leaving with us, I mean, they were the most outraged out of anybody. They're like talking with my wife. They're like, we're so sick and tired of these people. Now it's like these people. Yeah, these people who think that we're supposed to change everything, our system of laws, the way they don't accept this at all, Robert, at all. And if you were to look at these girls, you would think 20 years ago, 10 years ago, hell, they would have been the biggest Obama supporters in the world. There's no doubt. And they would have been. There's no doubt. Now they are absolutely not. There's a game, I'm telling you, there's a game my son got me on that I try to play with him when I have time. And they have all these chats, all of these younger, and there's certainly a lot of non-whites, right? They are just Trump lovers. They hate this stuff. Every joke is a mock of, on somebody who thinks they're a furry or thinks they're this or that, or you think you're a guy. They don't like this crap at all, all. And I don't know like what libertarians are thinking. Like, I don't know. I guess
many are social media influential people who are immediately coming out and disowning the Libertarian nominee.
Yep.
And saying that, I mean, most of them, or some portion vote Kennedy, but most of them are going to vote Trump. And I think Trump did himself a favor embracing crypto, did himself a favor embracing the commutation of Ross Ulbricht. There's a friend of mine defended Ross Ulbricht, and there's a lot of issues with that case, a lot of government misconduct, still doubt about whether he even is Dread Pirate Roberts, the man who ran Silk Road, and all of those issues. And his sentence was completely whack.
I just saw a thing on that. I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the murder solicitation charges were totally fake. They ended up dismissing them because they were fake. But, smart for him to endorse that commutation. Then he goes on Tim Pool, where there's some overlap with these young, popular voters. They watch shows like Tim Pool. They do the podcast circuit and embraces that he's going to consider a pardon of Julian Assange and is going to consider a criminal investigation of Anthony Fauci. And I think, like, there's different people that think there's different approaches about Trump and the swing voters, Trump and Kennedy, Trump and Biden. To me, find the issues that resonate with your base and their base and steal their votes. That, we have a script for this. 1968, 1992, George Corley Wallace. What did Nixon do? He let Wallace beat up the Democratic Party where he came from. And then he just stole some of the most popular issues that he could that aligned with his own voter base and then said on election day, only I can win. And Wallace lost 2/3 of his vote in the working class North on election day. 1992, Ross Perot, change, change, change. What does Bill Clinton do? Runs on change. Yeah. He doesn't spend all his time beating up on Perot. He lets Perot, because he came from his voter group came from the Republican base, beat up on Bush in the Republican Party, and then he pretends he's the change candidate, and he just steals a couple of little Perot issues and puts them in his own pocket. That's what I liked about this weekend, as I saw Trump taking that tactical approach. Kennedy's making some headway with crypto. Libertarians making some headway with crypto. I'm going to take crypto and make it my issue. They're making headway on the weaponization of the legal system. I've just experienced that. It's already helping me with minority working class voters who have negative experiences with the criminal and civil justice systems. I can win over some libertarians. I can steal some votes from Kennedy by saying I'll embrace Ross Ulbricht. I'll consider embracing Julian Assange. I'll embrace investigating Anthony Fauci. And I think if he keeps on that path, adds food freedom, adds medical freedom by saying, I'm going to make sure you can buy food directly from your farmer without prior government permission, and says drug companies are going to be held to the same standards as everybody else, and they're not going to be immune because of the injury caused by their vaccines, then I think he's going to lock it up. I think he'll take what votes are left between he and Kennedy, or he and West, or he and Libertarians, or he and the other third party. He gives them a motivation to get out and vote. And I think it's locked, sealed, and delivered. And I don't think any New York verdict is going to change that.
Yeah, I before the show ends, I had to ask you about what's going on in New York. But as you're talking, I pull this up. I just want to show people the food freedom issue, because we also did, folks, a whole litany of, well, would you vote for this person now? Would it make you more or less likely to vote for them? And this is, I mean, look at minority votes when it comes to food freedom. I mean, that's just it's astonishing, and there's overlap there. So we can go into the other tool, Alchemer, and click on people who either are supporting this candidate or not. There's a 20%, almost 20%, Robert, group of people that are Hispanics that are not voting for Trump, are not voting for Kennedy. But if they were to pick up some of these issues, they would consider voting for them. So this is like, that's a big deal. So it tells me, because just to tell people, Trump's at like 45% of the Hispanic vote. If he was to use some of these issues, he could seriously get to a 50-50 split. I mean, he really could. Maybe even more. I know people think that's nuts at this
Which
point,
means
but
Arizona locked in.
Nevada's going. Yeah.
Obviously, Florida and Texas are already locked in.
New Mexico is going to be really close.
New Mexico, close. Colorado could be close, because we still don't even know. Like, if Trump played it right and Kennedy ends up eating in heavily to even more and more to the Democratic base on a range of those issues, all of a sudden, Colorado could be in play. Colorado has a substantial Mexican-American minority population. Minnesota, as you pointed out, could be in play. Throw in Arab voters voting for Cornel West or something, like the Somalis in Minneapolis, or the Palestinians and Lebanese in Dearborn. You could have a fascinating map if Trump plays this right. I think and for everybody down ballot, just embrace food freedom, embrace medical freedom, and I think you have the edge with the key voter swing in what's going to be tight races for the Senate, tight races for the House. These are natural winning issues, and the Democrats have only banked on lawfare, and lawfare just keeps backfiring. And running a show trial in New York City ain't going to change that.
You've been, I'm sure, hearing a lot of things about the jury too. And every time there's a high profile case like this, I like to, get the observations from people who are sitting there. I got to tell you, I didn't think Bragg's prosecution would be this bad. And we know how some of these jurisdictions are, Robert. You and I have been calling for the end to the DC jurisdiction for a long time. That's got to be just completely ended. And again, it has to be removed. It is not a fair, impartial. It's corrupted beyond control. But we look at some of these changes with some of these groups that are in areas like the 5 boroughs, and I'm starting to wonder whether or not this man's going to get a not guilty verdict. Most people already expect he will be found guilty. The polls show, because they don't believe it's credible. So what do you think? Because some of the things I've been told about the reactions from the juror, they did not like Stormy Daniels' attempted performance at comedy. They did not like that. Michael Cohen, there was like multiple oh shit moments. You could see it on the jury's face. And the prosecutors lose the trust of the jury. Like they didn't. It's a great example. Is the Casey Anthony case. They get caught in a lie, or they get caught doing something the jury doesn't like. They lose faith in the prosecution, and that verdict is gone. I'm wondering, because this is such a liberal area, part of my cynicism wants to just take over. But I got to tell you, I don't know. This couldn't really have gone better for Donald Trump in New York, right? I mean,
oh yeah, substantively, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, as we've done a bunch of surveys over the years of jurors, and what you find is there's a portion of jurors that are beyond reason.
Yep.
That no matter what facts we tease out or test out, they vote if they have a strong bias. And my guess is that's a majority of the jury in New York, based on the jury poll political demographic. As we've been pointing out forever, as you surveyed and proved, you compare and contrast DC to outside DC. DC, you cannot get an impartial jury. Outside DC, you can. New York is only marginally better than DC.
Yeah.
And so and remember, they tried him here in Manhattan, right? If he had a Democratic jury pool in the Bronx, I'd say he has a much better chance. But it's not the Bronx, it's Manhattan. And so I think if I'm putting odds on it, I would say 50% chance of conviction, 35% chance of a mistrial, 15% chance of acquittal. Those numbers are up from the beginning just because the trial was so bad.
So
I
bad.
mean, the judge is trying to fix it and rig it every way he can. It's obvious he's desperate, but the whole case is just, please believe Mike Cohen, even though he lied to you on the stand in live time, even though he admitted he's lied under oath every single time
He
he's ever
admitted
taken
it,
the oath.
Rob.
And he admitted it. He's committed every form of fraud. That
That-
Trump was so in the know on everything Cohen did that Cohen could steal from him without Trump knowing until the trial.
Yeah.
So it's like, what? So I mean, it's if you're a self-respecting human being,
Human
you
being.
cannot vote criminal conviction based on the testimony of Michael Cohen when that is the sole basis for a conviction. Even if he is convicted, it will be overturned even by the political hacks in New York because it's such a ridiculous case. If necessary, SCOTUS. I think what this has really done is put pressure on the Supreme Court to put an end to all this nonsense by having an expansive interpretation of presidential immunity.
Yeah.
That's what they're really, and Sotomayor is signaling it. That's why she's out there crying again, right? A lot of decisions are coming, and some of these decisions make me really sad. I bet they do. We got some great decisions
That's
coming
true.
down the
She
pipe.
did telegraph that. You're right. I didn't even think of it like that.
Same with the attacks on Alito. They know what's coming. And that's why all of a sudden they're saying we got to recuse. They're previewing for everybody what their attack's going to be. See, look, Alito corrupt, Thomas corrupt. That explains why they just issued this. But it won't be Alito and Thomas and Gorsuch. It will be the people they lost were the institutionalists. Roberts and Kavanaugh. If they lose on immunity, that's who they lost. Now, watch Amy Coney Barrett go AWOL on this.
Did we not warn people about this woman? Did we not tell people pick Bagoa for crying out loud?
Pick anybody except this chick. These old Southern aristocrats with their little tea drinking.
The worst.
Oh, exactly. But Kavanaugh and Roberts, I think, are bothered at how the entire American judicial system looks like a global laughingstock.
Yeah.
First trying to prohibit Trump from being on the ballot, now trying to lock him up in the middle of an election based on cases that are just such a joke. Even the judge won't allow him to be broadcast to the world in New York.
Yeah.
So, but what we've told people from the day one, remember everybody's saying, once he gets indicted, he will completely collapse. The American people will never support an indicted candidate. We said, not going to happen. Because those polls are not polling it the right way.
Yeah.
And we were saying from day one, once people see how ridiculous these trials are, they're not going to, no conviction is going to work either in the court of public opinion. How did it work for trying to convict Martin Luther King? How did it work for trying to convict Nelson Mandela?
That's what they did. They created an American Mandela. That's what they're doing.
They created a martyr. They created a political martyr. They made the billionaire into the underdog. They made the rich white guy from New York, who's a celebrity, into an urban young black man getting rigged by the system.
Bravo.
The man, Homie the Clown, is the prosecutor of Trump. So that's why this ain't going to work. It ain't going to get anywhere. And I think if Trump just steals one or two more of these issues, these populist issues, I think he's rocking and rolling in 2024. Same with every other Republican candidate. And same for any candidate. If you're a Democrat out there, you're an independent, these are winners. These are issues you can win on. Food freedom, medical freedom, financial freedom, political freedom.
Geez, in the Central Valley in California, where there are some seriously contested House races right now, and people like John Duarte look like they're done. They're in deep trouble. This is a no-brainer, and he is a friggin' farmer. He's not a food farmer, but he is one. Devin Nunes is a great example. I mean, that's what this is actually the reason he got into politics in the first place. I've talked to him about this, and food freedoms were a huge deal. Water was a huge deal. All, of course, industry related. This all could be thrown in there very easily. And again, these microeconomic issues are huge for people, like personally, they really are. I'm stunned. I was stunned. I did not think this would be a home run like that, like not this significant. And it's a no-brainer. And in Pennsylvania, Jesus, Dave McCormick he's got a national high profile story in his backyard. He should be all over this. You got to convince these people you're not just a hedge fund millionaire, or maybe even, I don't know how much money Dave has, but he's got a lot of money. You got to convince people that you're just not some white hedge fund rich dude. Go and, support these people. There's your case, Robert. I mean, he could use that as a platform.
Easy winners.
This is
There's
easy.
a reason why Thomas Massey embraced it. Robert Kennedy embraced it. It's popular, folks, and you can jump on it. Trump campaign can jump on it. McCormick campaign can jump on it. Campaigns for attorney general in Pennsylvania and other state offices can campaign on. These are it's the attorney general's office persecuting Amos Miller, persecuting the Amish community in Pennsylvania. I mean, this is
which is how the people felt. We know that too, because we've also researched that. We know that they feel that they are picking on the Amish. That's what they feel in Pennsylvania. I'm talking about non-Amish Pennsylvanians. That's how they feel, folks. We know, we've done it.
These are winners. So any degree that myth of out there that nobody cares about these issues, these don't resonate. These aren't universal issues. These don't cross the platform, cross different demographics. Wrong. Our data proves these are some of the most popular unifying issues with intense supporters that are winners. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, quite literally.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Their campaign should be Mel Gibson, Braveheart, freedom. Run on freedom, and you're going to win in 2024.
Amen to that. Well, Robert, where's the 4:05? We'll wrap it up there. Robert, you put it out when you want to put it out. It's up to you, brother, But yeah, where do people go? I put I put Viva Barnes on the description. And then I went back and added sports picks. But tell people where to go and check you out, support you.
Yeah, so we're going to put all the poll results. We're going to be doing a special report that people can then share with others. We'll first doing a report for some congressmen, some senators, some big candidates, some presidential campaigns that wanted to see this. We'll be doing that. And then we're going to put a report and publishing it so that you can share it with anybody at 1776lawcenter.com. So that's where we have updates on food freedom cases, political freedom cases, medical freedom cases, financial freedom cases, involved in all of it, some of the biggest, hottest cases in the country of the greatest constitutional consequence. But we're also going to be putting up their legislative reform proposals. And we're also going to, it's stuff that's almost in brochure form, so you can share it with others. Or you can just share the link and say, if you want to know about these issues, go to 1776lawcenter.com. But we'll be publishing the results of these extraordinary polling data information and the survey of the American people there probably by early next week.
And I will go and put that link in the description of the video too. What the hell I was thinking. I'll tell you what I was thinking. I did too much on Memorial Day and I'm wiped. I'm telling you, brother. I got quite frankly later today, but other than that, that's it. I told Laura, leave me alone for the rest of the day. After that, I'm done. But yeah, check it out over there, folks. Definitely, and do what you can to support and share. We know the Biden economy. We know what it is, but do what you can. It's always appreciated. All right, Robert, let's get out of here, brother. It was a good one as always, and I will see you soon.
See you soon.
Robert Barnes, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, don't forget to check all the links to the descriptions. We'll bail on out of here, and we'll give you the next date for the next What Are the Odds. Also, oh, God, how could I have forgotten? Yeah, quite frankly, at 7 p.m., if you guys want to tune in, I'm going to go and have a conversation with my buddy Frank. We haven't had one, I think, 2 months, so it should be pretty good. And the public polling project down below, share it far and wide because we're coming up on the election. I'll be here before you know it. And got some national numbers that we want to share with you. We'll do that on Inside the Numbers tomorrow. And then keep an eye on Robert's website to see when that report comes out, because there's so much in this poll. It's really, it was fun. It was fun. Like I said, it gets monotonous sometimes. And this was something different. It was cool. I enjoyed it. And you'll enjoy the results diving through it. All right. Best place to follow me is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com. Don't forget to smash the like button if you liked it. Inside the Numbers tomorrow, noon Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. None but love for you, folks. I'm out. Deuces.